Hello everybody, Ed Rosenberg here. Today I want to talk about the return dissatisfaction rate metrics. The reason why I want to talk about it, even though it says on the seller metrics that it's beta for a while already, I've seen some emails coming from seller performance where they've said these words: customers say your customer service practices are unreliable. And in all those cases, either the customer dissatisfaction rate or the return dissatisfaction rate was red. So they're definitely beginning to wash it into the system, and they're not giving you any policy violations if it's only one of those, but they're mixing it in, so probably now is a good time for everybody to get it to green. And I think if you follow these steps, it's pretty easy. I'm going to talk about just return dissatisfaction rate, and thank you Leslie for helping me out on sorting this through. According to Amazon, first of all, return dissatisfaction rate, what it is for fulfillment by merchant orders, how you handle the return. For FBA, Amazon handles the return, so if you only do FBA, you can close this video. But if you also do fulfillment by merchant, or if you only do fulfillment by merchant, they want to make sure that your returns are handled perfectly. Now there are three things what they do to measure this index, this rating. The first one is the percentage of valid return requests that were not answered within 48 hours. They want you to respond right away to authorize or to respond to the return. Or if it was incorrectly rejected. Incorrectly rejected means if your policy is you're going to accept the return within 14 days and somebody asks for a return within 7 days and you don't accept it, so that's going to be an X against you. Now A and B, the first two that I mentioned, should never ever happen to us, never. The reason why it shouldn't happen is because if you go to settings, return settings, you're going to have a screen, and over there you can automate all these return authorizations. So what I have it selected to is I want Amazon to automatically authorize all return requests that meet Amazon's policy. You can also do I want Amazon to automatically authorize all requests. It's probably pretty similar. And then you have a return window, which I set to 30 days. That's what was recommended. And the reason why it was recommended to me is because within 30 days, that's how it is when you buy on Amazon. You can return it within 30 days if it's new and they'll pay for shipping. So within 30 days, if you automatically accept it, A and B you should never have an X on that. Where it gets tricky is received negative customer feedback. And this is why there was a whole outcry about it, because any customer can buy something, and then they can just return it because they said they're not happy. And then they get a survey and they asked how did you like the return, how the return was handled, and if they say no, there's nothing you could do, even if there was never any interaction. So the first thing we could do is A and B, make sure that that's 100%, which it should be. So if that's 100%, then you'll never have a problem ever. For A and B, well, you will have a problem for the return dissatisfaction rate, but you'll never have a problem for A and B. For the negative customer feedback, you have to first, there are things you can do to minimize that. If you go to performance, customer satisfaction, and then account health, it's a little bit hard to find it as always, these reports, but you go all the way down to return dissatisfaction rate. They want less than 10% of customers to complain about the return, and it's only within 60 days. Normally it's 90 days when it comes to these things, so you can fix it pretty quickly. Now under return dissatisfaction rate, if you go to request report and you wait a few seconds, then you go download past report. So you're going to see the A, B, and C. You're going to see the negative return feedback, the late response, and the invalid rejection. Again, like I said, the invalid rejection and the late response, there should never be anything on it once you automate it the way I told you. The negative return feedback is going to be a little bit out of your control, but if you look at the notes on why they left negative return feedback, you can see why they're doing it. And I think the reason why it's happening sometimes, some of the negative return feedback, is even though your policy is, and it is by me for years, that shipping back on an item where they just change their mind, even defective, the customer has to pay it back, the customer has to pay to ship it back, they're not happy about it. So I changed it, and I think it makes sense for many of us to change it as well. When you go back to the settings and then return settings, so for return mailing label, you should just check off that you're going to pay for return shipping back. And I understand it hurts, and sometimes it's going to be, unfair, but you have to weigh that they have a lot of power over you, and this is like the ultimate power, because even though you're doing everything within policy, if they say they're not happy, that's going to be an X against you. But if you check it that you're going to pay for shipping back, So that's one less excuse for them to write that they were not happy with the return. Another thing you could do is, when they contact you, and I've heard this helps, I don't know, instead of just saying, okay, send it back, or here's a label, you say, you have something prepared, like, I apologize for the bad customer experience, here's a return label, and I'll send you a new one, and here's a coupon code. Or you have to be overly nice to them, and if you're overly nice to them, so then there's absolutely no reason why they're going to say that they were not happy with the return. So just to summarize, return dissatisfaction rate is something that they're beginning to measure, it seems. There are three ways that they measure it. One is they want to make sure that you responded right away to the return. They wanted to make sure that everything was within policy. That should be automated, and it should be very simple to fix. The feedback is a little tricky. It's out of your control. But I think one thing you can do is pay for return shipping, even if it means raising your prices. It may make sense to do that. It made sense for me. And two, another thing you could do is just be overly nice to them and have a return. Just explain to them, that you're here for, your apologies, you didn't have a good customer experience, and that you're going to do what you can to make it right, and 99% of the times they're not going to click off no when they get that survey if they were happy with the way the return was handled. Thank you very much, and I'm going to leave all the links in the comments below. Thank you.